March 9, 1945. Tokyo, 10:45 p.m. The air was unnaturally still. A faint wind brushed across the wooden rooftops of the capital, carrying the scent of kerosene and rice smoke. Somewhere in the distance, an air raid siren began to moan, low, uncertain, as if even it didn't quite believe the danger was real. On the streets below, families hesitated. For months, Tokyo citizens had learned to ignore these sirens. The Americans were thousands of miles away. Their bombers, the flying fortresses, couldn't reach Japan, not from the Mariana Islands, not from anywhere. That was what every officer, every broadcast, every teacher told them. But then, far to the east, a faint hum began to grow. It started like the murmur of bees. Then it became a roar, steady, immense, and unbroken. People looked up. The night sky was no longer dark. It was moving. Hundreds of aircraft, silver shapes barely visible in the moonlight, stretched across the heavens. They came not in one line, but in waves, endless, layered, disciplined. Each one bore the same insignia, a white star inside a blue circle. The B-29 Superfortress had arrived. For years, the Japanese High Command had dismissed it as American propaganda, a fantasy of engineers too confident in their machines. No bomber, they said, can fly 3,000 miles, carry 6 tons of bombs, and return safely. In 1943, when U.S. intelligence leaked whispers of a new long-range bomber, the Imperial Army's technical officers had laughed. One colonel reportedly called it a child's dream of a dragon that never tires. The math didn't add up, they insisted. Not with the engines of the day. Not with the fuel. Even as American bases in the Marianas came online in late 1944, the Japanese General Staff believed it was a bluff, a psychological trick to demoralize the home front. The Empire's defenses were focused on the coastlines and harbors, not the skies. But Major General Curtis LeMay, the new commander of the XXI Bomber Command, wasn't bluffing. He was planning something Japan had never imagined possible: to burn Tokyo to ground, not with high explosives, but with fire itself. At 11:30 p.m., the first bomb began to fall. They weren't ordinary bombs. Each one opened midair, scattering dozens of smaller canisters that tumbled through the darkness. When they hit, they burst into flame, sticky white-hot napalm mixed with magnesium. The wooden houses, packed tight along Tokyo's narrow alleys, went up like kindling. Within minutes, entire blocks were ablaze. The fires leapt from roof to roof, crossing streets in seconds. The sound became indescribable. The shriek of wind, the crack of collapsing beams, the low, thunderous roar of a city becoming an inferno. From a command bunker beneath the Imperial Palace, General Hideki Tojo's successor listened to the reports in disbelief. The fire could be seen from 50 miles away. Radio operators screamed as static swallowed their last transmissions. The Japanese officers had believed the B-29s couldn't reach them. Now they couldn't stop them. At 12:15 a.m., the air raid had turned into a nightmare beyond measure. The B-29s flew low, just 5,000 feet, to drop their incendiaries with surgical precision. Pilots could see the flames below reflecting off their wings. A veteran bomber, city of Los Angeles, flew over Sumida River. The gunner looked down and saw something he would never forget. People by the thousands, shoulder to shoulder, packed onto the bridges, desperate to escape the walls of fire closing around them. But the heat was too much. Oxygen itself was being consumed. The flames created their own windstorm, a fire tornado. Eyewitnesses described it as a hurricane of flame, roaring through the streets at 200 miles an hour. The human screams were swallowed by the sound of the wind. By 1 a.m., the heart of Tokyo, the Asakusa, Honjo, and Fukagawa districts no longer existed. The pilots couldn't see the human cost. From their altitude, it was all light and shadow. They followed the path set by LeMay's maps, dropping their loads in precise grids, each bomb feeding the next. When they finally turned back toward the Marianas, the city was no longer visible, just a red glow beneath the clouds. Behind them, Tokyo burned. Over 100,000 civilians were dead. 1 million were homeless. And somewhere, Deep within the surviving command posts, an officer finally whispered what no one dared say aloud. The Americans weren't bluffing.